Hello?
Hey, Yazin, hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
Excellent. I thank you for reaching out. I am honored.
I'm honored too. I'm honored too because I've been researching this game for quite a while now.
I am happy to share what my experience has been working on Dark Void and what I know about it.
I'm pretty sure you have a lot to say.
I do. I actually am finding your question list so I can try and answer everything. So, how would you like to get started?
With the first question.
Yes. Okay. So the first question, how did the idea of Dark Void come about? So I have to take you back a bit. Are you familiar with the game Crimson Skies High Road to Revenge?
Yes, but I haven't played it yet, but I know it, yes.
All right. So the Crimson Skies team, it's my first game in the industry, and Jim Deal was ahead of the project. Matt Bruner was an art director. And after we had shipped that game, we're absorbed by FOSSA. And some of the team went to work on Shadowrun, and Jim and Matt headed up a sequel to Crimson Sky's High Road to Revenge, just referred to as Crimson 3. And they brought on a engineer, Jared Naltorf, I think was his name. Hopefully I've got that right. Wonderful man. At a certain point, Microsoft went through a round of layoffs. And I think this was around 2004 or 5. It's been a long time, so I don't quite remember.
Mhm.
And at that time, they cut the Crimson Skies 3 project.
Oh,
So Jim, Matt, Jared, and the lead game designer, Jose, started their own studio, Airtight Games. And they started working on what they called a spiritual successor to Crimson Sky's High Road to Revenge. And I don't remember the working title that they were using, but by the time I got there in January 2007, I was pushing for Sky Raiders because they were wanting to make a very pulpy type game. So their concept was a third person action adventure with multiple types of vehicles. You could run, you could ride a horse, you could ride a motorcycle, you could drive a Jeep or a car or a truck, and you could fly in an airplane. And then ultimately, you would have some type of jetpack, which was really exciting. That eventually they had put together a prototype when I joined the team. And part of the reason I had joined the team is that Capcom USA had picked up the game. Boy, I hope I remember this right. So, Sky Raiders, um, and I think the name might have been The Watchers once the game was written. And the game was written by a fellow named Jeff Howe. And the concept was a little bit of kind of biblical influence with the Watchers, the Nephilim, that idea. The simple concept was that a alien race had created humanity as a slave race. The slaves had rebelled and they had pushed the Watchers into a pocket universe called the Void. And that ultimately is where the name Dark Void came from.
interesting. Interesting, really.
So it's excuse me. It's the earlier concepts were I don't want to say better. One of the things that you find in video game development is that over the years, through the course of development, your game evolves. The story changes, the gameplay changes, the concept and what you're doing changes. And ideally, you come out with something much better at the end than you had at the beginning. And I think in some cases, yes, some cases, no, with Dark Void. And that's unfortunately why we never got a Dark Void 2.
Since you mentioned the cars and all that stuff, I would have loved to see that in the game, like driving around
Yes,
and
yes. And the team is very much a stylized team. Like the initial vision was supposed to be something like a Pixar movie. It wasn't supposed to be realistic. And it was pre-World War II, 1930s, Mediterranean, North Africa. And the villain was an organization called the Invisible Hand, which was like some kind of secret Nazi organization. And they were developing like the new technology. And so part of it is, or the story was that you were this adventurer who is essentially a Indiana Jones type, where you were an adventurer trying to steal Nazi tech. And that's where the jetpack, I think, ultimately came into play. Uh, Please forgive me. This is 20 years ago, so
ah,
my my recollection might not quite be right,
oh,
but I will give you the best information I can.
from what you've told me, this is the stuff I haven't heard about. So it's
Yeah, it's something that only the people on the team that worked on the project would be aware of.
yeah. I mean, I
Okay,
I would have I personally would have loved to see uh, the early version you mentioned, the Pixar and that. I would have
me too.
yeah.
And it's if you've spoken with anyone in video game development in the mid 2000s, there was a real push for realism, and stylization wasn't popular. So, for the most part, a publisher wants to make a safe bet. And if you come to them with a game idea that they like, and in this case we had, though it was stylized, they pushed to make it realistic looking because the numbers say that that sells better. So that's why you've got such a push in the mid to late 2000s for realism. And then by the mid to late teens, and actually it was Fortnite that really pushed the pendulum swung back to stylization to the point now where so many games are stylized and so many are realistic. Just not too many games are good like they used to be 10 or 15 years ago.
Uh, since you mentioned that publishers were pushing for realism, did Capcom at some point push you to add multiplayer? Because at the time, there was also a push for multiplayer.
Yes, it so we had an interesting relationship. There is the development studio Airtight Games, and we were working with Capcom USA. And Capcom USA was headed up by a man named Scott Bayless. And Scott Bayless used to be in charge of the flight sim team and what we called Studio Y in the early 2000s when we were developing Crimson Skies. And Scott left Microsoft because he was our studio boss. It was called, he was the PUM, Project Unit Manager. And Scott left to go to work for Capcom USA. And then we ended up working with him again in 2007 with Dark Void. So some of the things that they pushed for were um, realism was the first big push, which I could go either way on that. I think the stylistic idea would have fit much better for what we were trying to do. Another push that they made is Scott really loved the Star Wars movies. So instead of fighting people like a secret Nazi organization or aliens, he wanted us fighting robots. So all the enemies in Dark Void became robots instead of living creatures. And we had a meeting at one point, probably a year or two into production, when Capcom Japan came out and was privileged enough to meet Unifune-san, the creator of Mega Man. And he actually had just one comment, and he had said in reviewing the game, it's more gratifying for a player to kill a living thing than an inanimate object like a robot. And so we had pivoted, course corrected, and created some type of little alien worm-like creature, the actual Watchers, I think, and they would pilot the robots that you would be shooting in Dark Void.
S- So,
Yeah, it changed the game quite a bit.
yeah.
Probably the biggest change, and the one I take the most issue with, is we were 90 days from ship, and they delayed the game. And they delayed the game because people were having a hard time using the jetpack and the cover-based mechanic. And so Capcom USA asked us to implement a hover mode with the jetpack. Once you have the jetpack and you figure out how to use the hover mode, the vertical cover mechanic no longer works. It's pointless. You can just hover. So that was disappointing. And then on top of that, they made us take a uh, God of War approach where you have the prologue where you're flying in the void and you're learning how to use the jetpack. And then after that, you go and the story kicks in. The studio was against the prologue. We were against the robots. It's I shouldn't say the studio. I should say some of us in the studio. But ultimately, the publisher gets what the publisher wants. And I think one of your questions was like the early concepts for Nathan and the jetpack. What you play in that prologue is the first look. That was the original Nathan and the original jetpack.
Oh, because
So let's see. Your second. Oh, go ahead.
I've always wondered his design looked pretty different in the beginning. So
Yes.
so I was like, maybe it's just my imagination, or but now you tell me this,
Mm,
and
yeah, it's not your imagination. No, it was intentionally changed quite a bit.
oh,
Your second question.
yeah.
As the man behind the early conceptualization of Dark Void, what were some of the challenges that you face? Um, I would say there weren't really any challenges in the early conceptual phase. The early conceptual phase in video game development is a lot of fun. And for me, I love the early phase and I love the end phase where you're polishing the game and making it perfect. In the early phase, you're talking about different ideas. Hey, we want the game to be stylized, we want it to be in the Mediterranean and North Africa. The publisher comes in and they're like, hey, we want to go realistic and we want to do something more otherworldly. So we had built a kind of steampunk fantastical airship that you would fly through the void and explore. I'm hoping to find concepts that I can share with you about that. And from there, then it evolved into more of a kind of action adventure lost world thing where you're flying through the Bermuda Triangle in a storm, and then you end up in what you think is South America, but in the truth, you're actually in the void, and the void has different types of environments. So the yeah, there aren't challenges in the early development of video games. That's the fun time. That's the best time because you're just using your imagination. You're working with your team. You're bouncing ideas around. You're doing different things. You're pivoting. You're changing direction. You're trying all sorts of fun things.
Interesting.
Question number 3. What were some of the sources of inspiration you used? Any of your favorite movies, comics, or anime, Star Wars perhaps? So, as I mentioned earlier, Scott Bayless was a big Star Wars fan. So, certainly the prequel movies had an influence on Dark Void. And that's why you fight a lot of robots. That's where that came from. For us as a team, we very much loved Indiana Jones. And one of the things that we wanted to do with Crimson Sky's High Road to Revenge was make it a full third person action adventure game. And so you could run around, jump in an airplane, ride a motorcycle, Jeep, whatever. And so we were pushing for that for early Dark Void when it was Sky Raiders or the Watchers. And yeah, that Indiana Jones concept, Indiana Jones type films were always a big influence. I would say with the kind of different dimensions, that sort of thing, there is a horror film, science fiction horror film called Event Horizon, which we discussed a little bit, kind of its influence, because the concept is this spaceship goes beyond um, the event horizon and comes back like they went to hell and came back. And so the idea that you're going to the void, which is this pocket dimension where the creators of humanity are trapped and they're trying to get back out and get back to Earth and take over again. So it's a fun time.
Uh, one thing, because over the years, people have been saying that Will, his suit and his mask looked like Boba Fett. So I've always wondered when, yeah, when he was designed, where did the inspiration come from?
So his suit, he's your classic adventure guy. He's wearing khaki slacks, brown bomber, very much Indiana Jones. Originally, he didn't have a helmet, and the concept for the helmet was certainly Boba Fett influenced, and there were probably earlier versions that looked too much like Boba Fett. And I think it was a concept artist named Chris Madden who just did the single line down the front. And the art director, Matt Bruner, really liked that. So that's what we went with. So there's certainly some Star Wars influence in the game. And that's one of them. But yeah, the idea was an Indiana Jones type everyman hero.
That also explains the music selection, because you went for high octane, energy filled music shooting around, and the music is rolling.
Yes. Yes. It's a fellow named Bear McCready. I think I'm If he came to the studio, I met him once, but I wasn't involved in the score of the music. But Bear has gone on to become a very famous composer, and this was one of his early works.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the whole Indiana Jones vibe is what we were trying for. Everyone loved the idea of action adventure, 1930s pulp adventure, Indiana Jones kind of feel. Oh, which reminds me, I have a story to share with you. So, as we were developing Dark Void, one of the early missions, when you get to the jungle environment, you still think that you're in South America, but you're actually in the void. And you come across a Nazi submarine um, lodged in, or actually, it wouldn't have been a Nazi submarine. It would have been a World War One German U-boat on a waterfall. And we had started building out this environment. We had play tested it. It was gray box. And you, this is when you start to first realize that you're not on Earth anymore. And then uh, at E3, Naughty Dog announced Uncharted. And part of their, excuse me,
No problem.
teaser trailer had Nathan Drake exploring a Nazi U-boat on a waterfall. So we had to completely change that whole sequence in the game and make it into a container ship, the Cyclops that went missing in the Bermuda Triangle. So when you use the jetpack to go up and down the ship that's hanging on the side of a cliff, that originally was a Nazi U-boat, but we had to change it because one of the things that you find in video game development is there's a lot of parallel creative thinking. Once Uncharted was announced, thank goodness Uncharted was modern day and we were still 1930s, but there were a lot of similarities there.
Interesting.
See, question 4. How deeply involved was Capcom at the time? Were you at one point felt restricted? Um, it's not really a restrictive relationship. It's more like an employer-employee relationship. Because Capcom is financing the game, they have leverage to ask for certain things, and it's fair to provide those things. Certainly, there were things that we pushed back on more, and then things that I think I've shared previously that just weren't happy with. When they put in the hover on the jetpack, that really messes up the game like quite a bit and makes the vertical cover-based shooter experience just pointless.
Yeah.
Let's see. Were there any early prototypes or ideas for the jetpack that didn't make it into the final version? I not really. The jetpack, if you've played Crimson Skies High Road to Revenge, the jetpack flies like Crimson Skies does. It's the best flight mechanic out there in video games and has been for 20 years. Anyone who's doing some type of flying game from third person should be looking at Crimson Skies.
Yeah, or maybe if maybe in the future, if a Boba Fett game is made, well, there's one, but if they made another one, they could just look at Dark Void because there are some ideas from Dark Void that I felt that I always questioned why they weren't used, like the vertical shooting, for example. Sorry.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's we started out, we had really great vertical combat. And that came from one of the silent partners, the fellow who used to head up Microsoft Games, a man named Ed Freeze. Ed Freeze was a avid rock climber, and so he had put together some pictures. He was friends with our game designer Jose and head of the studio Jim Deal, and he had put together pictures of him climbing up his roof, holding a gun in hand as reference and the concept of vertical cover. So he's literally hanging under his roof, peeking over with a 9mm. And that's where the concept for vertical cover based shooting came from. It's like, oh, you can actually do this. So let's take the Gears of War cover based mechanic and let's go vertical with it. So you have to climb up the side of a mountain shooting enemies vertically, and then you can do it dropping down as well. And that, I wish we had done more of that because those early cover based vertical mechanics are really fun. It's really enjoyable in the game.
Yeah.
Let's see. Question number 6. Dark Void's vertical combat was really ambitious for its time. What was the biggest design headache or breakthrough moment you remember for that system? So, the biggest design headache actually becomes a technical issue. We were using Unreal 3 engine. And so you have a collision volume around your cover object, and then you have a collision volume around the character that you're playing. The collision volume around your character is essentially a capsule. It's two spheres that extend when you're standing and condense when you're crouching. However, it's for moving through the environment. So when you go into cover and you just have that capsule there, you're very far away from your cover. So it looks like you're either floating upside down or floating, or you're not close to your cover. It doesn't make sense visually. And what the animators had to do, they would actually turn off the collision and then snap the geometry of the character to the cover. But when that happens, you can fall out of the world. So we kept having an issue of you would snap into cover and then you would just fall out of the game. Ultimately, tech and animation were able to find a solution. And it was this one I don't remember. I believe it was to take that movement collision, that pill I described, and just give it a level of tolerance so that you could move much closer inside towards the character. And that's what we ended up doing. But that was certainly the biggest challenge. Let's see. Number 7, the Watchers characters. Designs had this mysterious blend of alien and ancient. How did you approach your visual identity? I, our Watcher designs, uh, we there's a couple of artists. So our lead character artist, John Hermanowski, did a few of the designs that were really solid, and he actually did the early design work for Nathan. And the robots came from a artist named Mark Sealander. Mark Sealander is just an amazing visionary of an artist. And those designs, that blend of alien and ancient and machinery, because Mark is such a technically minded artist, he is able to create very plausible, believable type robots. And it's because all the tech he designs would actually function.
Interesting.
See, number 8. If you could revisit Dark Void today with modern tools, what would you redesign or expand visually? So, if I could, if I had the means, I would buy the license for Dark Void and I would do a remaster of it. Uh, it would absolutely, there were a couple of things that I would do. So, I would expand upon the game to make it longer. I would actually put in a RPG leveling system so that as Nathan, you could play. If you really just wanted to go combat, you could. If you really wanted to go exploring, you could. If you really wanted to go scientific, I would give like you three classes to play. I, for me personally, I love games where you get to create your own character. I'm not sure Dark Void would be the place to do it, but probably wouldn't do that. And then I would, honestly, all the pieces are there for a phenomenal game. And taking like, I get rid of the hover for the jetpack for sure. Yes, it's harder, but the industry is very much proven players like hard games. They like a challenge. And so using the cover-based mechanic and the jetpack, I probably put in some vehicles too. We had a motorcycle that never made it into the game that was a lot of fun. So it would probably go from walking, running, motorcycles. Um, what else would I do? Oh, I'd take advantage of the big airship. So within the Void, one of the storylines is that Nikola Tesla is there, and Nikola Tesla is building a resistance against the Watchers. And because that pocket of the universe is so electrically based, electrically charged, he builds this big airship to move through and escape the void, um, that the player gets to run around in. This never actually happens in Dark Void, but it was very much part of the pitch and the prototype. You're like running around the airship, you're fighting on the airship. It was super cool. It was a lot of fun. And so I bring back that. Yeah, I if I had the means, I would absolutely remaster Dark Void and deliver the game that we always wanted it to be. It got close, but there's a lot more that we could do to make it what it is. Wow, now you got me really excited. You know anyone with $100 million?
No.
Yeah, me neither. But if you do, talk to them.
Yeah,
I will make that happen.
I would love to see that.
Me too. Me too. It would be so much fun.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, question number 9. Airtight Games was a fairly new studio back then. What was the vibe like working on a project this ambitious early on? Uh, it was fantastic. If you're familiar with the saying, you never know what you have until it's gone, uh, my time working with the Airtight Games team was one of my best experiences in the industry. We had worked together the previous 6 years at Microsoft. And when you've come from a big corporation and then you go to a startup and you're doing your own kind of double A title game, it's absolute magic. You're discussing different ideas. It's emotional and it's volatile. You're fighting over things. You're fighting for what you believe in. You're driving different ideas. You're working with a publisher. One of our challenges was we had to work with Capcom USA quite a bit, and Capcom USA would just bring in new people and they would want to change the direction, which got pretty frustrating at times, even though they were wonderful people to work with. And everything that we wanted to do as a studio is what Capcom Japan wanted us to do. But because of the way Capcom Japan lets Capcom USA make their own decisions, they wouldn't intervene. So yeah, it was a interesting dynamic, but a startup studio like that is so much fun. The best time in development.
They had some great ideas, like the other game, like the Murdered Soul Suspect, if you know it. Like the game.
Mhm. I do. I was the first art director on that project. Actually, if you go to my ArtStation page and you look at the art for Fate, Fate was the working title for
Yeah,
Murdered Soul Suspect, and that was the original concept for the game.
I'd love to I'd love to delve into this one in the future because that one also had some great potential. Really.
Yep. I was only there for a year or so, so I'm probably not the best person to ask. I can tell you what the first year was like with development, but then they went another 4 or 5 years. And honestly, the person you'd want to talk to is Matt Bruner. He was one of the co-owners of Airtight, and he saw the game through to the end. And he would be most familiar with the different iterations that they went through on that game.
I'd love to talk to him.
Yeah, I will see what I can do about introducing you.
Thanks.
I will I will connect with you on LinkedIn. Does that work for you?
Yes, that works.
Yes, that way. That's the only connection I have to Matt now. I've been in Austin 15 plus years, so I haven't really talked to Matt in 15 years.
That's long.
All right, let's see.
Question 10.
Question 10.
Yeah.
When you look back at your work on Dark Void, what are you personally most proud of? I'm personally most proud of just the amount of concept art I was able to create and the different ideas and refining um, my art pipeline. So if I haven't, I think I've sent you some essentially pencil and marker illustrations of Egypt type environments. And so that started out just like pencil on paper, ink on paper with marker, and then expanded to digital painting. And then from there, it was with 3D environments. Let's build the environments. We'll take a picture and paint over that. I actually developed my um, pre visualization pipeline working on Dark Void. And just some of my favorite art pieces are from there. So if you look at the pieces on ArtStation, those are, yeah, my favorite. There's a couple of pyramids. The idea of going to a jungle and seeing a Egyptian type pyramid, I thought was the most impactful. Um, Matt actually wanted to go with something a little different, a little more monolithic Mesoamerican than that, but there's a couple of concepts that I did of pyramids that are split in the jungle, and those are just my personal favorite pieces. Yeah. Creating art for that, I created hundreds of images over the years and then built a concept art team of 5 people that did some amazing work. And they've gone on to like work at ILM and, across the game industry and have all done really well. So that's, yeah, I feel really good about those days and the art I created.
Interesting.
Let's see, number 11. Were there any plans for a sequel? Did any conceptualization begin? In an interview with Jim Deal, did mention the team may consider a follow-up of the game if it performed well and was commercially and critically successful. So yes, there were plans for a sequel. What those plans were just simply an outline that you have stopped the Watchers from actually coming back into our universe where the Earth is. And then essentially you've got to go and do it again. And maybe they actually make it into the universe.
Uh, but was it darker?
Yeah, but
Like,
it was so abstract at that point that it could have gone anywhere. Like we were prepared to make a sequel if Dark Void was successful, but inside of 90 days, it was obvious it was not going to be successful. So any ideas for a sequel we scratched.
Man.
Yeah. You could actually, what's interesting is you could very easily build an encapsulated universe where you go back and forth into the void, fighting against the Watchers, trying to break out. You could put together a multiplayer type component with different vehicles, would be so much fun. We'll call it a Battlefield Light version.
Yeah.
I just, yeah, there's a huge amount of opportunity for Dark Void. I just need, honestly, Capcom Japan, hopefully Capcom Japan has the rights to it. They just need to find the right team to go and remake Dark Void again.
Dark Void reminds me of those days where third person shooters were different from one another. Like you had Gears of War, you had Vanquish, you had Binary Domain, you had Dark Void. They all felt different, but now today, uh, they, I won't say they look the same, but I will say uh, they play it safe.
Yes, they do. I am actually, I have something I can share with you. Do you like reading books?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So something has happened in the West over the last 20 years about books and literature. And I came across this video from a woman who has a channel called The Second Story. And she explains what has happened to writing over the last 20 years. Can I just paste it in the chat here?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Okay. So it's called How Modern Schools Make Terrible Writers Deliberately. This is a fantastic explanation of what's happened to writing. And in terms of it, it has affected television, it has affected film, and it has certainly affected video games. Because video games of 15, 20 years ago were far more interesting and entertaining, the majority of them, than they are now. Now it's the very rare game that's really well done and entertaining. But that really explains, honestly, one of one of the things that's happening in the West that is collapsing the society.
Yeah,
So
like
enjoy that.
thanks. I will I will watch it tonight. I just wanted to say that when you say writing in video games is collapsing, you remind me of I don't know if you know it, but the legacy of Kane games.
I know the games, but I've never played them. Have they changed over the years?
No, because like the first game is has a writing that is good, but from the Soul Reaver up to the Defiance, it has this impeccable writing. Like it's just Shakespeare type of writing.
That's wonderful.
Every line is memorable, but you'd think that such a game would influence other games to follow, but there hasn't been a game like that.
Now, I want to say, for me personally as a gamer, the it was probably 2017 when I had played games with good stories. One was Assassin's Creed Origin, uh, Barrack of Seawall. Assassin's Creed Origin is one of my favorite games. Highly recommend it. Great story. And then the other one is uh, Ghost Recon Wildlands. Great story. Just really simple, straightforward, and tells it well. And I can't think of many games that have had great story. I'm actually playing. mm, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle right now.
Oh, I played the Emperor's Tomb last week.
Oh, wow. That's from like 20 years ago, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a good game.
yeah, that was a good game. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I remember that. Yeah. I actually got into the video game industry because of Tomb Raider.
Oh, Tomb Raider.
I was working at TSR as an art director for Dungeons and Dragons, and a friend of mine turned me on to Tomb Raider, and I thought, wow, this is absolutely amazing. If you could make this look good, this would be phenomenal. You're essentially just a modern day Indiana Jones.
Uh, you played all the Tomb Raider games?
I have most of them.
Which one is your favorite?
Ooh, that's I honestly I keep going back to the first one. They remastered the first one, I think, in '07, '08. It's called Tomb Raider Anniversary.
Yes, that.
I really liked that one and what they did. Um, and then, oh, I know what it was. So Tomb Raider 2013, where how Lara becomes Lara Croft. I thought the first one was really good. Fantastic storytelling, great gameplay, really enjoyed it. And then the second one, Shadow of the Tomb Raider? No, or Tomb Raider Rising? I
R-
can't remember what the second one
Rise of the
was,
Tomb
but
Raider.
she's in,
Rise of the Tomb Raider.
yes,
Yes, that one.
yes. And she's in Russia for most of it and the cities underground and everything. I thought that was one of the best ones as well. The third one, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, plays pretty well, but the story just kind of gets off the rail. There's been this push to like rewrite villains. One of the things that makes Lara Croft appealing is that she's an anti-hero. Yeah, she's selfish. She steals. She just wants these ancient relics for her own collection. And then she crosses paths with much worse people that actually want to do awful things. And so she works to stop them. And it's like, okay, that's pretty straightforward. Now, they continue to rewrite Lara Croft and make her into a hero, an Indiana Jones type. And just like you don't understand the character or you don't care who the character is and you just want to rewrite her for your own purposes.
I think Crystal Dynamics should have stuck with her personality from Legend, because
Yes.
in Legend she had this balance between uh, arrogant and uh, anti-hero and also a badass.
Yes, I completely agree. Legend, and did you like Underworld?
Underworld, I have a mixed relationship with it. It starts great, but in the end, I have a mixed feeling about it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I remember the first kind of 2 or 3 environments of Underworld, but I don't remember how it ends at all. But Legend, I do. Yeah, Legend was one of the great games.
Especially when they give you,
Forgot about that.
especially when they give you the sword.
Yeah, what is it? It's not the Cthulhu. Is it the Cthulhu sword? Did they do a Cthulhu thing
I ha-
with her?
uh, they showed uh, they
Yeah.
showed one in Underworld.
Oh, that's right. And her doppelganger. And oh yeah, that was so good. Oh, wow. Yeah. Man, Yazin, you're taking me back. That was a really good game. Wow, I played that a couple of times, and actually trying to beat your doppelganger was really hard. That was a challenge.
Now I don't think they'll make another Tomb Raider like that anymore because Crystal Dynamics always reboots the franchise after 3 games.
Yes, and they make it worse.
Yeah, that's a problem.
I agree.
Yeah, so
It's, and I think the majority of the fan base agrees as well.
yeah,
It's
because if you look back at the originals, you enter an environment and you look around, and the music starts playing, and the level design of the game pushes you to look around and experiment. But the
yes,
new ones, you are just going in a single straightforward path.
yeah, that's kind of boring.
It started from the 2013 game. Like, if you're stuck, you can just press the, I don't remember, R1, but it tells you where to go.
Yeah, yeah. When you do those kinds of things, it really takes the challenge out of it. I I think for me, the 2013 one that sticks with me is one of, you know how you fight the ogre at the end
I-
or near the end?
yeah, I remember.
Is the way they foreshadowed the ogre. And she crossed paths with him like 2 or 3 times, and it's very destructive and scary and intimidating. And then ultimately you end up having to fight it. And that's probably a takeaway from that game for me is it's one of the best ways to foreshadow and set up a boss battle. Because when you finally beat him, it really feels like you've defeated something.
Something evil.
Yes.
Uh, and how do you feel about her in the sequel, where she goes like Rambo on enemies?
So one of my favorite moments is when you're in Russia and you've got the scuba gear down and you're under the ice in the building and you have to pop up and take out of the enemies. You feel like a Navy SEAL.
Or Rambo.
So yeah, you very much went Rambo in that. So it was good. It wasn't classic Tomb Raider, but I think the way they did it, it was very empowering and rewarding and really made Laura feel like a badass.
I would admit that the gameplay is better than Uncharted. This may get me in trouble, but I always thought the gameplay in Tomb
No,
Raiders is better than Uncharted.
it is. It's so love Uncharted, love Uncharted 2. I think Uncharted 2 is one of the best games ever made. However, Uncharted's cover-based combat is not as good as Gears of War, and Uncharted's traversal and exploration is not as good as Tomb Raider. But because of the way they tell their story in a cinematic fashion, it holds together really well. But you're correct. Tomb Raider has better traversal, and uh, Gears of War has better combat. Both of those just aren't very good in Uncharted.
True. And speaking of Gears of War, have you played Kill Switch?
I have not played Kill Switch.
It's what inspired Gears of War. Actually, the creator of Kill Switch uh, worked on Gears of War.
Okay.
Chris Isaki.
Okay.
Chris Isaki himself.
Kill Switch. Okay.
I actually talked to the writer, and he shared with me what they tried to do for a sequel, but it didn't happen.
Okay.
And that stuff was hidden for like 20 years. Nobody. It struck me as a surprise because nobody out there just messaged the developers to ask them if they worked on a follow up or not, and just took the chance.
Yeah. Okay, so 2003, I am seeing a YouTube video. Kill Switch, the most influential shooter you've never heard of. Yeah, I will totally check this out. This looks cool. Thank you, sir.
Ah, no problem. So, uh, I thank you for this opportunity, really.
Oh, you're very welcome. So, are you going to be writing a story based on all of this?
Uh, I will tell you what I do.
Or,
I will finish some of my stuff that I am working on, right?
hmm
And then make a documentary uh, where I mention your name and what you told me. I will make a
okay,
documentary about Dark Void and how it started and my other findings, then share it on YouTube.
okay. When you do that, please share it with me so that I can share it with other people. So, like when you talk to Matt Bruner and he shares the whole experience of working on Murdered Soul Suspect, he can fill you in on that. And then you had asked about Starhawk. The person you want to speak with on Starhawk is the creative director, Lars DeVore.
As before, right?
Yes. So I can put you in touch with him as well.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Actually, I was going to send you the video because that's what I do. I make the video and I send it to the devs.
Awesome. So I take it you need some concept art to show.
Yeah, I would love that. Yes.
Yeah, I will put together everything that I can and send it your way so that you can have it. I figure the game is long dead. Capcom USA no longer exists. Capcom has no interest in moving on Dark Void, as far as I know, and it has been, what, 15 years since the game came out. 16 this January.
Time flies.
Yeah, it does.
So
It does.
so to finish, how do you feel about seeing Dark Void receiving a fan documentary on YouTube?
Oh, I think it's wonderful. I I actually Dark Void was $5 on Xbox a couple months ago, so I bought it and played a couple hours. I like Dark Void's a fun game.
Yeah, uh,
I wish more people would discover it and check it out because, maybe one day there would be a new Dark Void.
or maybe a spiritual successor.
Yes.
I would love to see a spiritual successor.
Yes. Yep. No, we need 100 million. Probably 8 to 12 million for a prototype. So, if
It makes
they
it makes it even harder because a Japanese company owns an IP, and from what I know, it's hard to buy an IP from a Japanese company.
I would think so. But they might be willing to finance, like, if you spent the money and you put together a prototype of Dark Void and you took it to Capcom Japan and said, "Hey, we've put together on our own dime, so 8 to 12 million, this prototype. We actually want to redo Dark Void. Do you want to back this?"
They'll,
That's how you do it. I literally, if you want to get a game made, you have to make the game and prove it out so that you can say, "Hey, the people that I have can actually make something in a particular time frame for a particular budget, and here is the game that you could play and let them play it." And then if it's fun and they really enjoy it, then they'll back you with the $100 million or whatever it takes to make a game now.
Oh, I just remembered something I wanted to ask you. Since you were working with Capcom, did you, by any chance, uh, try to put some collectibles like some Capcom cameos, like Mega Man or stuff?
We had talked about that, and I don't remember what came of it. Uh, Either, hey, we don't want to put Easter eggs in the game, or we do want to put Easter eggs in the game, but one of the publishers said, no, don't do that.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't remember which it was.
I think it would have been fun to collect something in the game, like roam around and, you know, maybe find something
I
hanging
agree.
in the walls or.
Well, especially since the concept is it's this tear between universes where things get lost. So, along with like Nikola Tesla being there leading the rebels and the Cyclops, the ship that you discover, having things that you find could actually be really cool. Just relics from Earth throughout time could be neat little archaeological nods to the world. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Having secret little pickups was something that we wanted, but I think ultimately just didn't happen.
I also think that the guy from Bionic Commando would have been would have been a great friend with Will.
Potentially, I want to say Bionic Commando came out when we were working on Dark Void and we were playing it for a little bit. I think we got to play it before it was released. I don't remember to share some feedback on it, but I just remember it being kind of fun.
Yeah,
Though there was something about the arm, like the arm is the spirit of his dead wife or something.
mm.
I, there was something weird about it that I don't remember.
There's also an interesting story behind Bionic Commando that I want to explore in the future.
Nice.
Yeah. So that is all the questions I had.
All right. Yazin, I look forward to seeing your video.
Yes, thank you.
I will you're very welcome. I will put together as much concept as art as I can. I was actually just making JPEGs and I will send them your way.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Oh, you're very
I will.
welcome. You have a great evening, sir,
You too.
and thanks for reaching
Yeah,
out. It was a good conversation.
I'm glad. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. See ya.